Hey folks, it's Yannick Gwizdala. It's the Yannick Gwizdala podcast. So much to get into today, including 2 brand new basses. I talked about them a little bit on the last episode because I had just come back from NAMM, or rather I had just attended NAMM for a couple of days and was home thinking about them, dreaming about them. They were still back on their respective manufacturers' booths. We're talking about the new RKM collaboration double reverse P and the new Mattison completely hollow body passive headless thing. We will get into all of that in this episode. Right up front here, got to shout out some tour dates which are starting to filter in. A bunch in Los Angeles over the next 2 months. I'll be at the Baked Potato with Bob Reynolds February 27th with the quartet. March 5th, I'll be at the Baked Potato with Louis Palmer, his band featuring Luis Conte, Robert Rodriguez, and Aaron Janik. One more gig with Reynolds, with Bobby, March 20th at the Spud. And then we get into the spring touring with Vital Information. We start out here in Los Angeles, 3 nights, 6 shows with Steve Smith and Vital Information starting at the Baked Potato. Then we'll be, that's April 3, 4, 5. April 7th, we'll be at the Musical Instrument Museum in Phoenix, Arizona. We'll be in Pleasant Grove, Utah, April 9th. Albuquerque, New Mexico, April 10th. Oakland, California at Yoshi's, April 11th. We'll be at the Smith Center for the Arts in Las Vegas, Nevada, April 12th. And at PDX Jazz in Portland, Oregon, April 13th. We wind up that little leg of the tour with a big video shoot that I can't talk about right now, but more information soon. That's going to be super fun. I trot off to Europe. Wow, I'm just missing a rack of dates on here. No. Yeah, we're going to be at Ronnie Scott's in London with Vital Information just for one night. We're going all the way there for one gig. Unbelievable. That'll be May 10th, London, UK, Ronnie Scott's. Probably 2 shows, I'm guessing, that night. I go back to Europe for the Bass Day Europe, June 1st. There are going to be some other things in and around that will be announced soon. Then we get into June. We're getting way out here, but if you want to get these tickets before they go, some of these places are kind of on the small side and they do sell out. We'll be in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, June 19th with Vital Information. We got a 3-night run at Birdland, June 20, 21st, and 22nd. with Steve Smith and Vital Information, and there'll be a full East Coast tour around that as well. More dates to come. Don't forget, we now have Time and Sound merch. I'm wearing the long-sleeved, the long-sleeve t-shirt. Also got some hats. I got these trucker cats, kind of snug. I like these a lot with the logo on the front. It's all available at the website. We've got hoodies, t-shirts, all kinds of stuff. Now, let's get into, I guess one more mega important thing. Pre-sale for the vinyl. It's on, ladies and gentlemen. Mystery to Me 20th Anniversary Edition. The pre-sale for the vinyl is on. Go to the website. It's linked below, yannickgwizdala.com. I'm so excited for this. I cannot wait to hold one of these things in my hands. It will be the first thing I've ever pressed as an artist on vinyl. Been a part of a bunch of records that have been pressed on vinyl. In fact, I found a couple as I was cleaning out the studio the other day. I guess I put them away now. Oh no, they're right here. Let me show them to you. Hang on. I think Manuel's artist did an amazing job on this for a record we did back in, that came out last year. It's called Nevermind Tomorrow. Manuel Valera trio with me and Manuel Valera and Mark Whitfield Jr. on drums. Was really happy to be a part of that. Some beautiful artwork as well. I cannot wait to hold my own one like that in my hands. And then I've got our Vital Information record here, still in the wrapper, the Time Flies album, with me and Manuel and George Garzone and Mike Manieri and all the people who contributed to that album. It's really nice to hold vinyl. And of course, I want this to be a regular thing going forwards. I want to, make plans to try and do vinyl for each record I put out now. Maybe I'll go back in the archives and remaster a couple of old ones for vinyl as well. If they're, maybe the Union people have asked for, and American Elm has been a popular request over the years for vinyl. So let's see. This is step 1 in the vinyl journey. It's available for pre-order right now. Down below, we ship worldwide. let's get into the new basses. Let's go with the RKM. This is the one that in just a couple of days, I should state that both of these basses are going to get their own super detailed, super dedicated video. Especially as this one I'm holding right now, this blue RKM 5-string that you maybe have seen photos in last week's episode of the podcast. Now I'm holding it in my hand. This is what it looks like when you've got something next to it for perspective. And we changed a bunch of things. You may remember I went down to Monterrey to meet those guys in person and hang out, and I picked up a prototype. This was our first attempt at it. You'll see the pickups on here, for instance. That's going to be one of the biggest changes. We messed around with the pickup configuration a little bit for the final iteration of the instrument. We also put the output jack on the front instead of on the bottom. That was really important for me. I really like that. We got a little bit of a different vibe on the neck, as you can see, a little lighter on the new one. And of course, the dedicated video will have all the detailed specs. I'm not going into all of that right now, mainly because I don't know some of them. But also, this podcast this episode really just about playing them and giving you some insight into the kind of sounds you can make with it. We also switched up, obviously, the color, but then the hardware as well, to black hardware instead of chrome, both for the bridge and for the tuners. What else is different on here? There are a few little things, and we'll experience them together as we go here. And my buddy Hondo, whose channel you should definitely check out, Hondo Felder Music. He came by the RKM booth at NAMM and shot a little footage. So you should go check that out on his channel. He has kind of a NAMM bass recap that is a recent video on his channel, which I really dug. He was saying how he sat down and played it, and he made a really good point. He said it's kind of like a bit of a Swiss Army knife of a bass, and that is sort of right on the money. That's exactly the thought process behind all of it. It was so that it's something that's kind of in my ballpark and not as extreme as perhaps a P bass or a jazz bass in terms of the scale length, where you're thinking about 34-inch. This is a 33. It's not quite as short as the medium scale basses I'm used to playing, like the Madison, which are 32. So there was maybe a little more overall general public functionality in the thought process behind making it a 33. Has 24 frets, which is obviously a little more than a regular bass, but then not as much as some of my sort of solo instruments. And this 5-string is strung E to C, but it does have a detuner on it, so I can get low notes, high notes. So in that sense, it is a bit of a Swiss Army knife. And we'll get into some sounds. I'm going really, really clean today in terms of how I'm getting to you, how I'm getting to your ears. There's no pedal board. There's no nothing, actually. I'm just taking the DI out of the amp. And I'm monitoring on in-ears. So this is, for today, this is what it is. And we'll go through a few sounds. That's all the way on the front set of pickups. Let's go right in the middle. And on the rear set, that's to me a little more towards the jazz sound. That's kind of where the Swiss Army knife comes in. Not only the previous features I've mentioned, such as the scale length and the way I've strung it, but also the range of sounds I can get out of it as kind of a studio bass. The way it's set up right now with my typical high action, it's probably not the greatest action for playing slap on, but there's no reason you can't do that. And actually with this combination of woods, I actually think it sounds really good for that. So that's like a third main thing, a P thing, a jazz thing, and potentially you could really do a lot of damage if you play a lot of slap. But I'll set that up in a minute, EQ wise, and maybe we'll get into a few slap notes. And I kind of typically leave the mid right in the center for whatever, I might consider my sound in this situation. And maybe the the trebles right in the center notch as well, and maybe I've got a little bit of bass rolled on. That's kind of where I feel most comfortable like that. But then we take a totally different sound back up to the neck. I haven't touched the EQ at all. I've just changed pickups, and what a difference. And this is with all the tone pretty much rolled off. If I roll the tone in, we're getting a pretty massive signal boost there as well. We're getting closer to something you might think, oh, that might sound good with the thumb. But for me, just the change from the bridge to the neck, and obviously moving my fingers forward a little bit and playing with the tone. Just a massive range of sounds. Probably should have tuned it. It's been a little bit up and down here because it's not so warm in the house. Oh yeah, got a little sharp in the cold. And I'm super excited to get into detail with this. It's launching for sale. There are only going to be 10 of these, and it is launching for sale in just a couple of days. So I'm sort of working on a bigger, dedicated video for this, going into some detail, obviously playing some much more sort of dialed in sounds and comparisons. I have a drum loop here. We could do a little bit of that right now just to give you a feel of it in the pocket. But really, when I do like a dedicated video of really demoing an instrument, I like to get kind of into the weeds and monitor in the room with an amp and dial the sound in and make something really specific to, even if it's just a drum track, just something that really sits in the pocket. This is a little bit, in terms of the mix, that is, this is a little bit more kind of on the fly. So if we grab this, is this that Nate Smith drum groove again? Yes, it is. And I like that front pickup playing closer to the neck. And we'll go back to the bridge. Maybe right in the middle between the both of them. So you get kind of the idea there. Just 3 really basic sounds, and that's volume wide open, tone kind of backed off. Actually, I'm sort of like a third of the tone. I guess if I really open it up, yeah, you get a little more highs in there. Let's try that again. So it's actually really singing in the upper register as well, especially when you open the tone kind of wide up. I love to use the tone control. I guess kind of like a B3 player uses the drawbars to change the tone a little bit. And, whether you're comping or you're soloing or playing chords or whatever it is you're doing, kind of like to use it in that sense. I don't really know how to describe that technically. I don't know what exactly the drawbars are doing on an organ, but that's always the feeling I've had. Especially, I've played with a lot of great organ players, especially playing gospel music and playing in church and stuff. That I was always like, oh, I'm doing that. I know I'm doing that in my own little way. That's what I've always thought of the tone knob as on the instrument. And if I added, kind of typical little bit of reverb. And then open the tone up. Super. The neck plays super great. I think I've talked about that a lot before. I was like, the first thing that grabbed me about the Blue 4-string that you've seen me play a ton was the neck just played great. I was like, oh, if we can do something with a neck that's this good, sort of more in my ballpark, but very much for, I guess, something I'm not really known for that much, that kind of studio Swiss Army knife thing. I thought that, that was definitely the thought process behind collaborating with them on this instrument. And like I said, it will be available for sale very soon, in just the next couple of days, finalizing the photos of it and all the last minute details, like literally the web page where you can go and buy it. And as soon as the dedicated video comes out for that will signify that it's available. If you're not on my mailing list, on my newsletter, it's completely free to sign up. I do not spam you with anything at all. It's normally always just relevant content if you're a bass player, if you're a musician. And one of the notifications that will go out via that newsletter is the moment these go on sale. Like I said, there are only going to be 10 of them, period, in this color. We have talked about in a year's time, maybe 18 months time, somewhere in the future, maybe doing another 10 in a different color. But for now, the scope of our collaboration was to get to this point, to get me one instrument that I was super happy with from the prototype, through some discussion, through some experimentation, to this instrument, and then to create 10 of them, to be out there in the world, 10 unique pieces in a very, very limited run. And for what I think, for the quality of the instrument and the way it plays, what I think you'll find will be, of course, not everyone's going to find this, because everyone's wallet is slightly different. But I think in the grand scheme of things, if you're objective about it, the price point will be pretty decent for what this instrument is. I know, when we talked about it, I know it was something that I was like, oh, if I wanted an instrument like that, I would pay that kind of money for it, and would have paid that kind of money for it 10 years ago even. So yeah, I'm really excited to bring you that. Make sure you're on the mailing list. I'll make an announcement literally in the next 48 hours or something, with links and where you can go grab it at RKM's website. What else have we got on here? I did say I'd kind of try and set it up for a bit of a slap sound. You can do it. And like I said, the action is kind of the only time you'll hear me talk about a lower action perhaps being advantageous for a certain thing. When you want to get a certain sound and a certain clang of the string off the frets playing with the thumb, I would go for a slightly lower action than this. Not the type where you can't fit a piece of paper under the strings, like not that low, but definitely a little lower than this. I'm not sure if it really, how do I show you that? I don't think it really comes across on the, how do I show you this on the video? I don't think it really comes across as to how high the action is on this. You can definitely do it, but it's kind of high to be doing that super speedy stuff. Anyway, you guys know that's not my thing, but if it is your thing partly or even mainly, and you're thinking about getting one of these basses, just be aware that you can get to that kind of sound. And again, this is without any pedals or any preamps or anything. Of course, it's just the onboard preamp, the Trickfish preamp. Again, I don't know the model number of that. I don't know the exact names of the pickups. All of those things will be in the dedicated video when I've got all my research information and details in front of me, all the specs as I'm making that video. But yeah, this is just running straight DI into the computer, and that's where we're at. So I played it on a gig, of which I will include some footage in the video for this bass. Played it on a gig 2 nights ago with Bob Reynolds. Played both of these instruments actually, and it was good. This bass was really applicable for a couple of things in Bob Reynolds' set. Likewise, my Matheson, this new bad boy right here, Now, completely different world, totally different concept, purpose, intent, the whole thing. This is, I guess I should probably hold it up to the camera and give you a much better view. There's no prototype like the RKM to compare it to. This actually is the prototype. This is the first version of what Anders has built me from our many discussions about what I wanted to achieve this year with recording and with working on some classical music, and perhaps, you know, having a different challenge and a different way of playing my music and a different feeling under the fingers. You know, if you've followed the channel for a little while, you'll be aware of a video I shot with my buddy Ian Martin Allison. And I did a blindfold test. He handed me a bunch of basses, and I failed miserably on a lot of them. And the one that really stuck out the most was a Fender Coronado. And a beautiful instrument, and I just like gelled with it immediately. And I was like, oh, you know, I'd been talking to Anders about potentially having a little bit more of the chambering, because my regular Matheson has some chambering in it. And that just sort of kicked it into overdrive. And it wasn't like, I didn't say, hey, just build me a Matheson Fender Coronado with the same, you know, 335 body shape and the actual hole shaped like an F, the F holes that are shaped like an F. You'll see the 3 F holes here are just circles, little circles. But basically what he did was took a body and cut the top off and then hollowed it out. And there are little sound posts in here, like put a new top on it. And there are sound posts inside, pretty much like an upright bass might have. They function obviously slightly differently. They're not removable or movable in that sense. And then with the headless, you know, I think we lost so much weight in the body because it's completely hollow now everywhere, not just the top chamber like my Madison I've been playing for a while. We lost so much weight here. Had we left the headstock on, I think it would have probably been a little bit out of balance. So like I said last week, my brief to Madison, my brief to Anders was, yeah, you know, probably not a headless and probably, you know, active electronics. And he delivered me a headless bass that's completely passive. And like I said last week, I'm going to say it again this week, and I'll keep saying it as long as I play this bass. He was totally right. And the balance is incredible. I mean, my Matheson, my regular Matheson I've been playing for years, balances like incredibly well. Now I've just taken the strap off and it sits there perfectly, you know, just to prove it. There's no trickery here. I've taken the strap off completely and it is sitting. I'm like even moving around and jiggling around a bit here. And you can see it's balanced perfectly. So that was the first thing that stood out. First of all, there were a bunch of bass players in my house for dinner right before NAMM. We had this hang, really fun bass hang. Bunch of the cats came over, including Henrik and Anders and Steve Bailey and Tim Landers, a bunch of people, Scott and Ian and Sharon from SBL, a rack of people came by. And I was literally in between cooking courses of the dinner with my chef's apron on. I sat down on the couch. The first thing I did was just put it on my knee, and it sat like this. I was like, oh, hello, we're onto something here. And I think had Anders had his, I still keep reaching out to the headstock to tune it. I've got to get used to tuning at the bridge. I think had Anders had his way completely, like 100%, he probably would have just left one pickup in it. And that being the front one. And we'll start off with that, actually. We'll start off with the front pickup because it is, I think it's the more realistic or the more, I don't know. I'm going to stop rambling and just play the instrument. Super ringing fifths. Still don't know where everything is yet. There. Yeah. It's 26 frets, so I've got that high D, low E, high C, E, A, D, G, C. And yeah, computer just shut down on me. Okay, because I want to keep that open. Maybe we'll play it with the loop as well. There. really hard to get to this voicing. I've been working on this one lately. A minor chord, D minor, but with the 5 and the flat 5 or sharp 11 in it. There. Just different ways of changing the tension of that chord from within, like the inner moving parts, but having 2 of them at the same time. There. Can I get to... Yeah. So, a couple of things you won't be able to do on this is the drop D tuner. And yeah, this is maybe not the bass for slapping, but in terms of how it felt, you know, playing the gig the other night with Bob and the quartet and playing all those tunes, yeah, it was just the next, you know, perhaps the next evolution of the Matheson I've been playing for so long. I've been working a little bit. What is that I've been working on? Oh, this major 7 sharp 9. Sorry, we're going to get into some ramblings here because just getting into major. Major 7 sharp 9, which is basically 6th mode of the harmonic minor. So that's E flat major 7 sharp 9. So imagine E flat major 7, 1 3 7, E flat G and D natural, but with an F sharp or G flat on top. And then the fact that it's E flat is the root of that chord, and it's the 6th mode of the harmonic minor. So what's the 6th note? What is E flat is the 6th note in harmonic minor in the key of G minor. So playing G harmonic minor from E flat to E flat kind of gives you the chord scale for that. Not that I would ever think of it as a chord scale or think of a scale at all when I was improvising, but that is technically where that comes from. And then kind of combining that, moving in and out, using E flat major sharp 9 and natural 9 to go back and forth to create tension is always fun. And then exchanging the chord, but keeping the melody the same. And that's kind of the D over E flat, and then E major. And I got into what, F7 sharp flat 9. To get to B flat minor. Anyway, a random harmony lesson right in the middle of all of this, but that's kind of been where it's been at. Those are the kind of things that are coming out as I get to know this new instrument. I'll do again a dedicated video with this once I get more comfortable with it. There are going to be a lot more filmed pieces this year as I go to the studio to make different records, where I'll definitely be using this new Matheson. And I look forward to also like bringing you some behind the scenes throughout the year when I'm doing record dates, and maybe I'm doing a few pop things or rock things, and you know, playing the new RKM with a pick, for instance, or just doing some jazz bass kind of thing. It would be really interesting to roll a bit of tape, videotape, and share that with you, just to sort of explain behind the scenes the thought process that goes into kind of what bass I use on what music, or what instruments I take out of the house to go on a session. I did a big shoot with SBL a couple of weeks ago that I mentioned, and I did take a ton of basses to the studio. We had not planned on doing a gear video that day, but as I was setting up, Scott was looking at the gear. I had the big new stereo pedal board. I had about 5 or 6 basses with me. He's like, dude, let's talk about the basses and the gear for a minute. That could be a fun video. So at some point, I'm sure SBL will be putting out a little bit of a profile on what it is I take to the studio. And I'll sort of fill you guys in throughout the year because there are a lot of things happening this year, a lot of different stuff coming in. Anyway, so this has really just been the front pickup with no tone so far. We can bring in the rear pickup, take it out. Can give it some bite if you want it. Maybe I'll take the reverb off. Take the front pickup out altogether. And the whole thing is interesting. It's very different from what I'm used to, but not uncomfortable at all. The neck profile, which I've got some macro lenses here. It'll be interesting to do some close-up slow-mo of that just to show you exactly what's going on with this neck profile. I don't think it comes across so well on how would I do that? Yeah, it's so awkward just to sit here and then like shove the instrument in front of the camera to show you certain things. Much better to leave the bass stationary and move the camera around it at some point. But it's definitely one of the more unique neck profiles I've ever seen. But at the same time, it's not too thick, it's not too thin. Oops. Let's just open up the tap. Doesn't help with the microphone right in front of my nose. There we go, that's a little better. I missed it. The weight thing is definitely something I'll need to get used to because it is super light. One of the mega bonuses of this one is that it fits in a guitar gig bag. So traveling is going to be definitely a lot lighter. I'm going to see how I feel about how delicate or not. It may not be delicate at all. It may just be whatever. Just carry on as normal. Don't even think about it. But I definitely want to sit down and have a quick ponder as to whether the hollow body will render it a little more susceptible to damage on the move. Of course, it's a whole new tuning system, and I have to test the durability and the consistency and the stamina of all this stuff. Tuning pegs, regular tuning pegs that we all know, pretty much super standard, that have been used for decades and decades. Sort of easy to trust those. It's a lot easier to replace those on the go as well. But something a little more unique like this, and the fact that you have to have an Allen wrench to change the strings on what's left of the headstock here, and plus these tuners at the bridge, who knows? I don't. I haven't used this setup for years and years and years on the road. So that's going to be, I'm glad I have a couple of months before I go on the road, and that I'm starting off the most intense part of the touring at home for 4 nights we play. So I'll be able to put it through its paces to the point where I'm going to be pretty confident by the time I get out on the road with it. Yeah, it's just and maybe we'll just we'll put this one in the pocket as well. Why not? Let's get that drum loop fired up. I've been favoring the front pickup. Again, that just goes to show that Anders is the man. He knows what he's talking about. I've definitely been favoring the front pickup. Let's see how this feels. Now I'll bring in some of the rear pickup. Yeah, okay. Could get a little carried away, and I should get carried away. I have not been practicing nearly enough, especially as I have 2 brand new instruments in the house. This should be around the clock, but many other commitments, such as my daughter and family and all of that stuff, have been taking priority this week. Hopefully after the weekend, I'll be stuck into major practice mode and writing mode and just doing all the things that 2 instruments like this should and do and have been inspiring me to do. Really looking forward, actually, mostly to the writing process, I think, more than anything. And it was great hanging with Henrik, Linda this week, obviously at the house for the dinner and stuff, and over NAMM, and just being around each other more than we normally get to. And he mentioned again about doing something together. We had tried, I mean, this is like 9 years ago or something, 8 or 9 years ago, we went in the studio and spent a couple of days recording, and then nothing really came of it. And I think that was my bad on a lot of levels. I'll take full responsibility for that. I was like, if we make a whole album and this and that, had like major plans, and we probably should have just started with a song. And that's kind of what he said this week. Hey man, maybe we should just do a song together. Let's write something and, let's get one thing out there. So there is a possibility now that we'll work on that for the next couple of months together. And then I'll go to Sweden and we'll film something maybe with Aaron from Dirty Loops, the 3 of us. So that's kind of a fun thing to be thinking about and to potentially start writing for over the next few weeks. I'll keep you posted on that. Don't forget, Time and Sound merch, all available below. And the thing I'm most giddy about, I guess, is the vinyl. The sooner we get the pre-order cranking and I see, how many I need to order, I'll get the order in and we'll be away. And before you know it, the vinyl will be in our hands. We'll be able to throw it on turntables and listen to it. Of course, it's going to be a single vinyl, so the entire album won't be able to fit on there, but we're doing our best to fit, the best parts, the highlights, and not to have to chop too much out. But old school constraints of, maybe 20 or 21 minutes maximum aside, maybe even less, I can't remember. It gives us a few constraints in that department. You can, of course, go and stream the album, all of it, on Spotify and Apple Music and wherever you get your music. It's been out now for a month, almost exactly, and it's been going amazing. Can't thank you guys enough for streaming that. It's definitely the most successful by the streaming numbers release I've ever had, and long may that continue. I want to maintain that level of output and get albums out to you every few months. There are just dozens of them in my head, and I would much prefer that they were out there being listened to than stuck in here keeping me up at night. So yeah, go check out all of that stuff. Is all linked below, and in the next couple of days, look out for the RKM announcement of this one going on sale. Like I said, limited to 10 pieces only, available worldwide, and I hope you love it as much as I do. I've had a blast putting it together, going through the prototyping, really sort of being heavily involved in the design and the ideas, in just a real collaboration. Been really, really nice. Those guys are super nice as well. That's always probably the most important part, is that they're just nice people to be around. They came to the gig on Thursday. It was cool. And Anders Mattisson was there as well. It was like a big bass luthier love fest. Tim Landers came out. It was just awesome to see a bunch of great people. Gary Novak was there, Clarence Penn. It was actually for quite the hang Thursday night at the Spud, for it being post-NAMM. Normally the pre-NAMM hangs are huge, but post-NAMM, people came out hard and people went strong. So it was really nice to see all those people. Really nice to be a part of all of these projects. And like I said, if you're not on the mailing list, it's totally free to sign up. You can sign up below in the description of the video. And that is where the first people will hear about the new instrument going on sale in the next 48 hours or so. That's it. Appreciate you sticking around, taking some of your insanely precious time to spend with me. Let's leave the guitar emoji in a comment if you made it this far. That'll let me know you did make it this far. And if you leave a question or a comment, I'll be sure to read it and answer if it's a question. And that's it. See you cats on the next one.